So one of the first things that they teach you in seminary and rabbinical school about crafting a sermon is to always be mindful of the elephant in the room. A simile, by the way, that is attributed to both Mark Twain and Dostoevsky. By this, Dostoevsky and Twain and my homiletics professor, of course, meant that when speaking, you must address what everyone is thinking about, as if there were a giant elephant, or even a small, cute little elephant, right here in the middle of our sanctuary or snuggled up in a corner over there. You got to talk about the elephant because everybody else is thinking about the elephant. They can't think about anything else. The elephant is in the middle of the room. For the last 85 days, the elephant has been and remains Israel and Gaza and Hamas and hostages and anti-Semitism and all of their elephant-like offspring. By the way, speaking of elephants, while a group of elephants is commonly called a herd, the preferred term is, anybody know? A parade. A group of elephants is called a parade of elephants. And it does feel at times like the aforementioned topics are parading through our streets and our social media feeds, if not our every thought when we are asleep and when we are awake. We human beings, we deal with elephants a lot. It's hard to focus on something else when the urgent, the disruptive, or the ever-present is hanging over us like a cloud or an elephant sitting upon us, casting shadows on everything, coloring our worldview. But somehow we manage. Somehow we manage to find the strength, the wisdom, the perseverance to live in a world of elephants and to not let our world become a zoo. What I want to explore together tonight as we enter into this new year is how to live in a room and a world and a year that is filled with elephants and that the parade is going to, I think, keep marching on, and how to do that without losing our mind. I want to look at 3 elephants. I'll even give them names. The elephant of urgency, the elephant of disruption, and the elephant of grief. Now, those are not cute, fun names like Dumbo and Babar and Horton, but urgency, disruption, and grief will have to do. Specifically, all 3 of these elephants relate to Israel and to the Jewish people right now. But more generally, urgency, disruption, and grief are elephants that we all have experience with, and most importantly, they are elephants that we have all learned to live in the same room with, in spite of the challenges that they present. When my wife Sharon and I were parents of young children, particularly our first, Judah, every thought, every conversation, every decision was made in the context of our child and parenting. When to eat, when to sleep, where and how to travel, where to live, what to spend, what to save, how to work, where to work, when to work. The elephant in the room was a 12 to 18-pound bundle of teething worry and sometimes joy. I'm honestly not sure how we managed to think or do anything else but wash and feed and change our child for that first year. The fact that we did, and then when decided to do it again 2 more times, still befuddles me. All I remember from those sleepless, stress-filled days and nights is the urgency of the baby elephant in the room. I don't think I could even describe the room, just the urgency of the moment. That elephant, which was my child, controlled everything. It was driving the bus, and we were the passengers pretty much just along for the ride. We knew in time that this phase would end or at least change, and we would get the wheel, or at least we'd have a say in the direction of things, eventually. And I guess maybe that's actually what got us through. Babies grow up. For better or for worse, it's not always going to be like it was in those first months or years. And we held on to that hope as we bounced along the bumpy road, holding on for dear life. That certainty was the proverbial light at the end of the exhausting tunnel. And one of the keys to dealing with the elephant of urgency is knowing that it's going to leave the room eventually, or at least take a nap. When someone you love, so the first elephant is urgency. When someone you love is faced with illness, the illness becomes the elephant, and it shades and colors everything in your life. All is lived and loved in the context of that diagnosis and that treatment, if there is a treatment. The difference between the disruptive elephant of illness and the urgent elephant of child-rearing is that we don't know when or how or even if that elephant will leave the room. We want the elephant to leave, the elephant of illness. We pray and we plead that it will move on, rambling or parading out the doors with as little disruption as possible. But it's an elephant in a room that is our life. It's going to make a mess, no matter how it leaves or exists. The key to dealing with this elephant is accepting the disruption, understanding that the rules and the situation have changed for now, for sure, and maybe forever. It's an elephant that pretty much, because it's an elephant, can go wherever it wants to go. You can't stop elephants, but you can learn to live with them. You can maybe steer them a little bit. And since the elephant of illness is sitting in your house, you can learn from them as well. The elephant of illness teaches us how fragile things are. The elephant of that disruption teaches us also how resourceful and resilient we can be in the face of that fragility and that uncertainty. We've all faced that elephant of disruption before. Some have brought it with them to shul this evening, a constant companion. And you're amazing. You're amazing for doing that. Somehow you managed to come to shul with an elephant, schlepping and carrying an elephant. It weighs you down, it slows you down, it might be running you down. But that elephant that you've been schlepping with you, it hasn't crushed you yet. You are stronger than an elephant, and if not you alone, then you with your tribe of friends and family and supporters are stronger than that elephant. The elephant of illness teaches us that we can't do it alone, but that we can do it, and we can learn along the way. The third elephant that we all face at some point is the elephant of grief and mourning. If I were to ever write a children's book, I think I would call it The Elephant at the Shiva Minyan. The elephant of mourning sits heavily by our side. Sometimes it sits actually right on our chest. I don't think it's possible for elephants to sit lightly. Like illness, this elephant comes without much or any warning, and it leaves footprints and impressions on our heart, deep impressions of what its progenitor meant to us. Its presence is not entirely unwelcome. The elephant of grief is also the elephant of memory. Remember this: you only mourn those you love. Thank God for my sadness, for it is equal to the love that I have for the ones that I have lost. We cannot forget. We don't want to forget, but we also know that we can't schlep this elephant with us forever. It's heavy. It's a burden. It's exhausting. And the person we mourn did not want us to be elephant keepers or to be elephants ourselves. In time, we make room for the elephant, a room of its own, that we can visit, but we don't have to inhabit every minute of every day. Judaism gives us rituals. It gives us permissions to enter and to exit the room. And if we find ourselves stuck or lost, Judaism even commands us how to act. The elephant of mourning is actually a blessing, because like elephants, it helps us to never forget. 3 elephants: urgency, disruption, and grief. These are the 3 elephants facing the Jewish people here and in Israel right now. We are in a crisis. We try to be proactive, but we don't control the variables. The forces aligned against us are not entirely rational. They can be childlike. They can be stubborn and self-sabotaging, and their behavior often elicits the same from us. And there are moments that we think we have this under control, and then wham, the proverbial diaper explodes, and we are out of wet wipes. I'll let you fill in the rest of that analogy. The thing to remember is that this will end. We will learn to navigate through urgency. We will figure it out. Sometimes it requires help and dropping of all of our plans and assumptions. But no one wants to live like this forever, so we figure it out. We mature, We find a way. In this analogy, Israel and the Palestinians are co-parents. They are dysfunctional, probably divorced, most certainly hating each other, in need of counseling and maybe even a restraining order, but co-parents nonetheless. The baby is the land, and they love the land. And I'm counting on them both realizing that, and that they can't keep going like this. It's not good for their soul or for the baby. In moments of urgency, when the diaper explodes, we rise to the occasion because we have no other choice. Ein briah, we say in Hebrew. We have no choice. How we handle that diaper, that's up to us, but we've got to handle it. Life for Jews has been disrupted as well. We have been shaken and stirred from our complacent and apparently false sense of security. Like with illness, we have much to learn from this disruption. We must evaluate what really matters, where to put our energy and where to let go of, what to let go of. The serenity prayer always comes to mind as a comfort in times of disruption. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There's actually a great deal that we can do to treat the body and the soul of the Jewish people as it is under assault from forces physical and metaphysical. But we must be wise in how we defend the land and its people, how we combat anti-Semitism and victim blaming and the demonization of Jews and Judaism and Zionism. We need wisdom. And so we should listen to our doctors, to those that truly want to help us heal, and we must never give in to despair or fatalism. The obituary of the Jewish people has been written so many times before, and we are still here. Not by might, not by power, but by ruach, our tradition says, by our spirit, our energy, our perseverance, and our wisdom. That's how we've survived. So what does this disruption, this elephant of disruption, teach us? How can we heal our body and our soul? If not a complete healing, then we must learn to live with the disruption and not to be defined by it. And we are in mourning. We are grieving. The Jewish people were shocked and horrified on October 7th, and the grief keeps coming as the terror continues to unfold for us and for the innocents caught in the crossfire. Many have made reference to many quotes from Golda Meir. She seems to have a wisdom in this moment. One that struck me was when she said once, "We can forgive the Arabs for killing our children, but we can never forgive them for forcing us to kill their children." As we work through the 5 stages of grief, of denial, of bargaining, anger, acceptance, depression, we must remember how our tradition celebrates life, how we are commanded to rise from our house of mourning, to re-enter the world, never to forget the life and lessons of those that we lost, but to be blessed by them, to be inspired to live the life that they can no longer live, to make their memory a blessing. The death of so many cannot be in vain. It's upon us, as it has been for previous generations of Jews, that as we sow in tears, we must reap in joy. It is upon us, those Jews, us, alive right now, to plant the seeds of this moment so that the future generations will know of the sacrifice and that something good and sustainable will grow from this calamity and that it will nourish us and them. Not in anger or resentment, but with profound awe and appreciation for what we did in this moment to inspire and to ensure that they reap in joy in the future. 3 elephants. 3 lessons for dealing with all that sits heavily on our collective psyche as we enter into this new year. The elephant of urgency. It demands our full attention. It demands our creativity. It demands our perseverance. This moment requires us to pay attention and to act. The elephant of disruption. It can be illuminating. It can be instructive. In fact, it is. We are wiser and stronger than we think, and we are not alone. We have each other. And the elephant of grief. It's actually a blessing. as it gives us purpose, someone and something to live for. This new year, it may be a parade of elephants, but who doesn't love a parade? Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.